A very warm welcome to my community. I'm Sherwood McCaskey, as always. We are pleased that you have joined us. Customs and traditions anchor society. Traditionally, every major event in our life has been ushered in with a ceremony. Perhaps in this case, we may say ushered out with a ceremony. Funerals have always been major occasions in our society. Mr. Springer begins with some age-old funerary customs which he experienced as a boy.
Growing up in St. Andrew as usual, in those good old days, I lived in Lakes, and there was a funeral man in Lakes named Mr. Clark. He had a son named Alva. And when I remember Alva Clark, I would remember Alva Clark, who used to be on the BBC with George Lanning. He was some guy and awesome. This Alva Clark was his son, and he had a daughter, Muriel Clark, that used to teach me in the infant. But Mr. Clark, apart from a funeral man, a funeral director, he had two mango trees in front of his house, and they were high over the road. And people would not pick Mr. Clark mangoes because he would tell them that the duppy inside his room would watch them and come back tonight for them. I happened to know that wasn't so, and I would pass and run and jump up and pick a handful, because they were small mangoes you could put for your mouth, but they were the sweetest mangoes in the world. But next door, he had his funeral house. He had a hearse, A9, and he used to cut this black thing there for you to see. And somebody died on the funerals at St. Andrew's Parish Church. And he would bring the hearse in the road and broke the box with the body in it. And if it was, say, a 4 o'clock funeral around 2:30, you assemble at Mr. Clark's house in this line of two all up lakes. People from St. Simon's going to the full meet down by the bridge, we call it. You turn right and pass by the word shop, Miss Rock Place. And as you go down the road, people, if they're close to you, your cousin, your aunt, they will line up closer to the coffin than you who are just coming to the funeral. So you had, if a man died, his wife being carried on by a son and his daughters and grandchildren and nephews and nieces and good friends that work at Highgate Saw, good stick liquors or you go fishing together. But you walk from Lakes till you get to Belle Plaine, to the St. Andrew's Parish Church, right through Belle Plaine. As you get by Seabrook World Shop, they will shut the shop door. The gas station attendants will stand up there and don't serve you. People will shut their windows as respect for the dead. And that happened all down Belle Plaine Road. The police station would pull in their front door. The post office just above would shut and all work stopped. And they would travel down the road. You come to Edmund Smith's shop. That's the second. Then you come to Charles Liquor shop. That was the third. There was a baker shop behind there, the Church of God. That was shut. Then there was a shop opposite my house in Belle Plaine by man Theophilus Franklin. And then you came to the Brethren Church that Homie Corbin used to go to, and Ashby Jordan. And then you come down to a church, I don't know the name of it. They passed by a house where Dr. St. Alma Thompson lived, he was a man, and his father, Sir Thompson, his sister, Glendine Thompson. they shut the door in. Then you come to Mr. Lynch, the shop I spoke of earlier. That will shut. The school, by that time, you're getting close to 4 o'clock. Because school in those days shut at 4, not 3. In those days, they start school at 10. But they brought it forward. Daylight saving time, I believe it, but it came forward. Then you get on the road, now you come to Foster Shop, Irby Foster Shop. And that's the last shop you're going to see until you get to the doctor's house. The doctor lived near the church, the priest lived near the Am's house. Shut, everything shut down. When they pass, then you open back. But you give them time to disappear down the road. And you go to the church. They had a man with a beaver on his head, walking in front of the coffin. He was paid by the undertaker man to lead this thing down the road. And he would stop when he see you, and the people joined the line, and then from there to the church he would go. He had a nickname of Lard Oil. And he had this beaver on his head. And a man named not Ramsey, he was Kelman. Anyhow, can't remember his name. He would sing this line of verse. When you hear poor Lard Oil dead, put on your beaver on your head and follow poor Lard Oil to the grave. That man was singing that down Lard Oil up front, you know. Because Lard Oil represented death. He's living, but he up front in a black lounge tail jacket, black shoes, everything, and a beaver, this big hat on your head. I don't see those hats any longer. And this man would sing this. I was trying to remember his name, you know. He used to go a night singing on Christmas, but that was it. That's all I know about a funeral in St. Andrew. I didn't go to many funerals like that. You had to belong to me to walk that distance from my home in Lakes. And I don't think my mother really worried whether I went or not.
Mr. Springer spent a number of decades in the teaching service, retiring as principal. Evidently, his teacher, Mr. Vaughan, who taught him at the primary school in St. Andrew, saw his potential at an early age. On a number of occasions, Mr. Vaughan asked him to act as teacher in his absence. Here now to that experience and the events that followed.
One day, Lester Vaughan went in the garden and left me in charge of the class. And it was Lindsay Worrell, I have a brother named Courtney Howard, a fellow named Joseph Ramsey, and a fellow named Luther Goodrich. I remember those four. Those are the ones that sat up front. That gave trouble. Lester Vaughan outside, I inside. We doing long division. I'm a little fella. I'm the smallest in the crowd. But fate would have it that I was the one Mr. Vaughan asked to teach. Because he always claimed that I could be a teacher. That's his prediction when I was at primary school. So Mr. Vaughan came in and he saw these fellas. He said, well, why are you not on the bench? I heard the teacher I left here asked you to go on the bench. He used to make a lot of fun too. He said, you all just stand up. And he called the names. And he went for a strap he had, not the belt, a strap. And he gave them each 2 lashes. I laughed. So they felt they got beat that fellow when the school over. So as I came up bed and walking, a fellow said, the boys coming to beat you. I said, let them come. So I looked back, I saw up the middle road where Lindsay used to live, not far from me. His father's shop at the beginning. I saw them coming running. And they tell me, run, man, they're coming. So I said, yeah, I can stop. I can stop. 'Cause I had a brother Luther behind coming, but he's small. So I ran till I got by the I passed through Belle Plaine, and they're behind me. Nobody noticed this. That's me running home. But what Joseph Ramsey, Luther Goodrich, and these fellas doing all up there, Lindsay by his father's shop. But well, Courtney Howard, they say he was Lindsay's brother, and I found that after. But so I passed the shop, and we gone on the campground now, running on the edge of the river. I saw my Uncle Aubrey on his bicycle. I said, good. So I stopped running. I got there, he said, Humpty, I said, oh, Silas is not trying to beat me. And he said, you are. But when we looked, Lindsay were father with them. I messed up this piece. When they got close to me, I picked up a rock. 'Cause I know I get through the back. I don't again meet my uncle, but I thought I would meet somebody from Lakes. I threw this rock, and Lindsay up front got it right in his forehead. And the blood came down. I got frightened this time. Got the police station down the road. They tell you shouldn't shed blood, but I know tomorrow at school we can get some lashes, and I be getting extra. So when they got to my uncle, Aubrey said, Siebert, just so. He said, you know me. Go back in your shop and help Nancy, that's his wife, dispatch the people. This is Friday afternoon. People in the shop. Because if you touch him, I can throw you in Higgins River. It's out. And Aubrey would do it. I made this joke in that lady's funeral. And people in the church, when I said Aubrey was by the bridge, it meant the church laughed. Because he was norming customer. And he was the one that tell Boise, go down, I hear. So, Siebert turned back, and all the boys followed him back home. To the shop they gone. Next morning at the school, we gone to school. The school looked gloomy and dumb. Nobody in laughing, nobody in shouting. Mr. Best in making joke in by the fence, staying up with his trap in his hand. And he used to repeat these words, be in time for duty's call. You're late. Be in time for duty's call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each word was accompanied by a lash with a strap. So that you didn't want to hear that man with this, singing this thing. But it's not everybody present at school. The thing seems to spread about Belle Plaine. Mr. Best called into school, and he called all, I think there were 5 or 6 of us. 5. I was number 5. Lindsay, Joseph Ramsey, Early Howard, Luther Goodrich, Carl Springer. My best friends in all the world. He gave those fellas 3 lashes for refusing to obey the then teacher, Carl Springer, who was teaching the day before. And to be involved in a skirmish on the streets of St. Andrew after school. 2 more lashes. Give them, he tell you straight why. He called me up. He told me I was in a skirmish, I threw a stone. And he gave me 2 lashes. And fella said, wait, we only get here 2. I was the teacher the day before they got lashes, disobeying orders in school. No, don't do that. And Lester Brown always remember that.
Mr. Springer was destined to be a teacher. So from that little primary school boy who acted as a teacher in St. Andrew to the young adult working as a teacher, his experiences are memorable.
I used to teach at the Regal School, but the headmaster suffered from the lack of having finances from the people. And he closed it down, went to St. Vincent Grammar School. Dr. Alfred Wilkinson Blackett. A little on him, out of Belle Plaine, St. Andrew. He went off to Jamaica to Kingston College. And then he came back to Antigua Grammar School. And then after he retired there, the guys, the politicians in Antigua, the Birds, made him a secretary, permanent secretary in the ministry of something, some ministry. And he remained in Antigua. But when he closed down the school, I tried to go to Curacao, and I went into town morning, noon, and night, and I couldn't make it. If I may arrive in town, the finish with the selection. This Cecil Granville Smith, the father of Sir Frederick Smith and Orry Smith and Vernon Smith, he was a teacher at St. Simon's. He was looking for teachers because those days the priest was chairman of managers. He said, Mr. Smith, I want a teacher. And I went back to Bridgetown, got on a bus around 1 o'clock. I went to search Sturgis because the buses are going to Bellplain on the 4 o'clock bus. I knocked about in Sturgis at some friends of my house. Then I took the bus down. I went to see Mr. Smith the next day, and he said, on the 9th of September, you report here for work. But when you go back down, tell Mr. Reverend Woodruff, because he's the person who's going to look after your payment to the Treasury. I went back down, I saw Reverend Woodruff, and I told him. He said, you're teaching at St. Simon's, but I hope that you come down to St. Andrew Boys soon, because I have a son here, Andrew, about 3 years old. I want you to teach him. I taught at St. Simon's. Some of the people that I taught, like Lionel Smith, he became agricultural officer. Two of Mr. Smith's daughters, Grace, she was married to Burley Smith in Burley, Seeley, here in St. Philip. And there's another one, Peggy, she married to a king. She lived over there. His wife looked at him one day and told him, Mr. Smith, put all of my children in the same class and let that young man teach them. He knows what he's doing because he's teaching the kind of way that I have not heard in this school. The children are in front of him and he's explaining to them everything. I want to teach all of my children. He turned and told her, you cannot do that. Age range, they got this age thing, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 9 to 10 in different classes. But what she did was to get them out of school by 3 and call me and ask me to set some work for them, different work than what they gave in the school. So every afternoon after school, I would give them some lessons. Till they sent me from there to Bottoms, then from there to St. Andrew's Boys, and Reverend Woodruff children turned up. Then I said to myself, there must be something different about my technique, my style of teaching. Because some days I would go home and see my mother with a bunch of children. Everybody come to me for lessons. So one day they called me and told me that I've got to Turner's Hall because Albert Vaughan was coming from, he was playing the piano. He was coming down to teach at St. Andrew's Boys. He's a trained teacher. I was just a teacher. So I went into town, bought a little motorcycle from Bradshaw. I remember Rod Branca was, he operated there, and I bought the motorcycle. I learned to ride it the Sunday after. And I rode from there to Turner's Hall School, and I taught there for about 3 years. And I remained at that school there with 3 ladies, Miss Smithix, Miss Medford, and one called Glendine Thompson. She was from Bellplain. She left to become an education officer. And it was from that school that I received a call from a man by the name of Gordon Braffett. It came to Turner's Hall. In those days, that was not gas, but an oil company. And there was one telephone there at that, and in that area that was at that place. And I got a call to go down there, and I went down. And there was this call from the ministry, from the Department of Education. And I called. And the man said, Mr. Gordon Braffett has gone out to come back. And next day, I got a call and I rushed down there. And he looked at me, he called and he said, come over into Macedonia and help me. I said, where is Macedonia? Because in doing Greek and Latin at school and Jewish history, I know there was one or two up that part of the world. He said, this Macedonia is in St. Philip. But I'm using this term because it was used to St. Paul. And I'm using it to you. And he went on to say something about Mr. Smith and Mr. Bass and all of these head teachers and the teachers that he talked to came to the conclusion that I was the kind of person that would become an education officer, having passed through the ranks. I was not trained yet. That's the time I decided, okay, I will go to St. Philip in my own time. I got married in 1955, went back to Turner's Hall teaching, enjoyed the views of the country on my motorcycle every day, going down, coming up, going to see my mother now and then and come back to St. Joseph. And in 1956, I went to St. Catherine's School to teach. And I taught there for 15 years.
And who are some of those Barbadians who had the very good fortune of sitting at his feet and learning while he taught at St. Catherine's?
Your girl. I call her your girl. That's right, you will get with her. She's my girl.
I, Sandra Prunella Mason, do swear that I will well and truly serve Barbados in the office of President, so help me God.
Sandra Mason, Selma Jackman, Cappy Greenwich's sister, all of them, Jackmans, this body, the Greenwiches, all of them, there in front of me. I went to Erdiston in 1959 from St. Catherine's School. Came up in 1961. Got involved in the community up here, the same situation with the young people, especially those at Princess Margaret School. They were the teenagers, as it were. I formed 2 clubs at Princess Margaret School. The netball, the Bryn Mawr Netball Club, Princess Margaret Netball Club. Most of the girls from the club, from the school, joined the club. 1 or 2 teachers joined it. And how I happened to form that, while waiting for my wife, who was at the health center, I saw about 6 women playing netball, not 1 student. So I called a girl and I said, teacher, I said, excuse me, if you want to play netball, you must have a team of 2. And if you want to make a sense of what you're doing, you will get some of those big girls at the school, mix them with you teachers and the lady from the post office, Miss Wilson, and you get a team. And I spoke to the principal of the school. He didn't tell him anything. I told the education officer, Gordon Braffett. He said, will you coach a team here in netball? I said, I did courses and coach anything with Bruce St. John at Harrison College. So they then got this thing going, and they formed this Bryn Mawr Netball Club. And those girls, I was to take them about in my car. I bought a bigger car. And I take them to St. Andrews, St. James, all over the place, YMPC, playing netball against teams like Car Rovers and Challengers. These are professional girls downtown. Well, my girl went down. We had one lady we wanted to join us, Carolyn Sinclair. She was a teacher, but she didn't join us. She still played with her team. But we had a good team. And I took them to St. Vincent and Grenada, on the Federal Palm, on the Federal Maple. Went by one and came up by the other. And then it got into my head, you know, you had some good boys at St. Catherine's School. Why not do something athletic? And the man for AAA, or St. Cecilia, was my good friend. And I got George Griffith and Alvin Griffith and Jules Mullin and Harvey Newton and Wilfred Newton. These are the boys from St. Catherine that would come with me. And I got to Versus Margaret, so I met a fellow there named Weeks, Teacher Valley, Ralph Weeks. He said, Mr. Springer, I like this. He was an athlete. And we went round the district in St. Philip, and we found other fella from Brighton, we call him Jet. Then we found a girl from St. John named Juliet Toppin. Then we had another girl from Padmore, can't remember her name now. Then we had two girls from Brighton, nurse girls, Jennifer and her sister. Jennifer was a customs officer. I think she retired now. And then I went about other places and I found people at school, people telling me this person. And I said to myself, they're two in St. Philip, but their parents are going to allow them to come. There's a girl named Joan Wilkinson. She used to work in the bank. And another one, the best of all runners. And I feel issues around now. She would be another pocket rocket like that girl in Jamaica, a girl named Jacqueline Innes. But I had this team. They called the Philippians Athletic Club. I went to Jamaica with George and Alvin Griffith to do a marathon or half marathon. They run through the hills. George will remember this. I'd be laughing if he sees it. He and Alvin was a good boy, but he allowed society, certain things in society, to change him. Got into trouble, but as an athlete, he was good. Good. And I remember the two of them running through these hills in Grenada, low profile behind the people, but there's a level spot to Grand Dance, the beach. And George and Griffith, and George and Alvin, when they got to the bottom, and they saw a good level road, and they saw me in the distance, I did so, and they took off. When the Grenadians and others from the Caribbean jumped, George and Alvin was way out and gone on the window race. When they got back to me, I said, George, and they call him Alibaba. And that name stuck with him. All about St. Philip, Alibaba. Because I wanted to tell him, Alibaba and the 40 thieves. Alibaba must have been a thief himself. George told that race. He and Alvin came first and second. So that gave us some momentum up here. But I still love St. Andrew.
What an interesting story of a wise man from the East who left the parish of his birth and settled in St. Philip, not only to teach in the classroom setting, but outside. A man who embraced the community of St. Philip and give to many. It is indeed a true saying, some of the more poignant and life-changing moments are experienced quietly. My community celebrates 93-year-old Carl Springer, who fared very well in the arena for which he was called and continues to leave behind an enduring legacy of which we all could be justly proud. We have said it many times in this series, memory is our major link to the past. People and events will live on as long as we have memory. We are indeed thankful that Mr. Springer's memory is indeed sharp and that we were granted the opportunity of crystallizing his wonderful memories in the audio and visual format to be shared with all. Thank you very much, Mr. Springer. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. The program continues next week at the same time.